What lurks in the dark? Have you ever stepped into an old building and felt a sudden chill? Have you walked alone at night and heard whispers that didn't belong to the wind? America is home to some of the most haunted places in the world. Places where history refuses to rest, where the echoes of the past continue to torment those who dare to visit. These locations are not just eerie. They are home to terrifying spirits, horrifying histories, and real encounters that will leave you questioning what exists beyond our world. Join me as I take you on a chilling journey through America's most haunted locations. But be warned, the stories you are about to read are not for the faint of heart. If you hear a noise behind you, whatever you do, don't turn around. 1. The Waverly Hills Sanatorium, Louisville, Kentucky. Few places in America hold as much death and suffering as Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Originally built to house tuberculosis patients in the early 1900s, this massive facility saw thousands perish within its walls. The death tunnel, a dark underground passage used to discreetly transport bodies out of the hospital, still echoes with the cries of the dead. Night security guards report hearing phantom footsteps and distant coughing, even when no one else is inside. Visitors have seen shadowy figures darting in the halls and have been physically touched by unseen hands. One nurse, working late at night, swore she saw a gaunt figure staring at her from the end of the hallway. It grinned, revealing a mouth full of rotted teeth before vanishing into thin air. Then there's room 502, the room where a nurse allegedly took her own life after discovering she was pregnant. People who enter report overwhelming feelings of sadness, nausea, and even hallucinations of a woman in white standing near the window. Some have fled in sheer terror, claiming something unseen whispered in their ears. Get out before it's too late. 2. The Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. Once a luxury ocean liner, the Queen Mary is now a floating hotel and one of the most haunted locations in the country. During World War II, the ship was repurposed as a transport vessel, but tragedy struck when it accidentally crashed into its escort ship, killing hundreds of sailors. Their spirits never left. Guests have reported hearing screams coming from the engine room, where a young sailor was crushed to death. In the first-class swimming pool, wet footprints appear out of nowhere, despite the pool being empty for decades. Some guests claim they've woken up in the middle of the night to find a woman in period clothing standing at the foot of their bed, staring at them with hollow black eyes. One maintenance worker, tasked with fixing a leak in the lower decks, recalls hearing a deep guttural growl echo through the empty corridors. He turned just in time to see a dark mass crawling toward him, something inhuman. He ran, never looking back, but to this day, he swears he felt cold fingers brush against his ankle as he fled. 3. The Stanley Hotel, Estes Park, Colorado, famous for inspiring Stephen King's The Shining. The Stanley Hotel is a magnet for ghost hunters and thrill seekers alike. Guests frequently report hearing children laughing in the halls, despite no children being present. Others claim to see ghostly figures wandering the grand staircase, dressed in early 1900s attire. One guest, staying in room 217, the room that King himself stayed in, awoke in the middle of the night to find a woman standing by the bed. She had no face, just a shadowy void where her features should have been. She reached out a hand toward him, and he felt an icy grip around his wrist. The next morning, he woke up with bruises in the shape of fingers. Even staff members avoid certain parts of the hotel. The 4th floor is said to be particularly active, with disembodied voices and ghostly apparitions frequently appearing. One maid once saw an entire ballroom filled with spectral dancers, only to blink and find the room completely empty. 4. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Prisons are naturally eerie, but Eastern State Penitentiary is something else entirely. Once housing some of America's most violent criminals, the prison implemented extreme solitary confinement, leading to madness and despair among inmates. Many died within its cold, crumbling walls, and their spirits are said to remain. Visitors hear wailing echoing through cell block 12, shadow figures lurking in the corners, and ghostly whispers calling their names. One former tour guide quit after feeling something breathing on the back of his neck in an empty cell. Perhaps the most disturbing story comes from a visitor who took a photo inside an empty corridor. When they developed the picture, they saw a pair of glowing eyes peering at them from the darkness. 5. The Crescent Hotel, Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Known as America's most haunted hotel, the Crescent Hotel was once a fraudulent cancer hospital where patients were promised miraculous cures, only to suffer slow, painful deaths. The doctor who ran the operation, Norman Baker, is long dead, but the spirits of his victims remain trapped. Guests staying in room 218 report being yanked from their beds by unseen hands. The basement, once used as a makeshift morgue, is the most active location. One employee recalled seeing a man in a doctor's coat standing by the autopsy table. When he blinked, the figure was gone, but the distinct scent of formaldehyde filled the air. 6. The Myrtles Plantation, St. Francisville, Louisiana. One of the most haunted plantations in America, the Myrtles Plantation is infamous for its ghosts. Legend tells of Chloe, a slave girl who was allegedly mutilated and hanged after poisoning the plantation owner's family. Her restless spirit roams the house, often appearing in photographs taken by visitors. A woman staying overnight awoke to find a figure standing at the foot of her bed. She described it as a young woman in a turban, staring at her with hollow, sorrowful eyes. The woman tried to scream but found herself paralyzed. The next morning, she discovered handprints burned into her bedsheets. Would you dare visit? Each of these locations has a past steeped in horror, tragedy, and unexplainable phenomena. Some who visit never experience anything out of the ordinary, but others leave forever changed, haunted by what they have seen and felt. Perhaps one day you'll find yourself drawn to one of these places. Maybe curiosity will lead you down the dark corridors of a haunted hospital, into the chilling rooms of an abandoned asylum, or through the eerie halls of a forgotten hotel. Just remember, if you hear a whisper when no one is around, if you feel a breath on your neck when you're alone, if the shadows seem to move just a little too close, run.